Everyone, and welcome back to this week's wonderful video. And today we're going to talk about once again about the Pyramid of Giza. So thanking the Lord through our Savior Jesus Christ, let us begin. So first of all, what did we see in last week's video? So in last week we saw about the entrance and the symbolic nature that could be there. We threw hints about it. We see that it was placed above 50 feet high, which we're going to explain now, actually represents how Adam and Eve were created in a very unique way, and they didn't fulfill the covenant to show their love to the Creator, so they fall into the consequence of sin, which is death, which we saw in last week's video and described about how it relates to this pyramid, which is 50 feet. Which is where the entrance is placed 50 feet high, we saw. Then the way they chose through their free will, we see, represents the descending passage, we see. Because of the actions that they chose through their fleshly will, we see, that shows the descending passage, we see, and it leads to the destruction, which is called the pit, which is at the bottom of the pyramid, which is 50 feet below, as we saw, as according to the construction of the pyramid. And yes, the broad way which our great parents chose their lives in which they wanted to lead to, leads to death, not to life, we see. And the broad way is the fleshly desires. So now we can read verses about this, and we can read in Isaiah book, we can read the 38th chapter and 18th verse, where it talks about this, as it says, "For the grave cannot praise you, death cannot sing your praise, those who go down into the pit cannot hope for your faithfulness." So we can see the death in this, according to this verse, is connected with the pyramid. Next, we have to see what we could see inside the Pyramid of Giza after the descending passage. That is the next understanding we need to gain, because we have now understood that a descending passage has the symbolic meaning towards the path, which is the broad way that Adam and Eve chose to take upon because of their fleshly desires, and we can see that led them to the pit. But we can see this path leads to death, not life, we can see. And we see and saw further reference that death is connected to pit in Isaiah 38th chapter 18th verse. But now we're going to see what is inside the Pyramid of Giza after the descending passage. So through the entrance, after some distance, there is a ascending passage. This might seem quite obvious, but it's very interesting in the way it is put in place, because the ascending passage is with the granite. It has a granite plug with it, we can see. So this first ascending passage from the bottom, this passage seems like a way of escape from this descending passage, we can see. So this once again shows the symbolism, because this represents the first opportunity to escape from the sentence of death, which has happened in the salvation plan through the law that God provided to the Israelites through Moses, we can see, in Mount Sinai, to save us from the death. We can read this in Leviticus 18th chapter, which is the first situation which God had provided to the Israelites to help them escape, help them to escape from the sentence of death. So we can read now in Leviticus chapter, we can read the 18th chapter, and we can read the 4th to 5th verse. So it says, "You must obey my laws and be careful to follow my decrees. I am the Lord your God. Keep my decrees and laws, for the person who obeys them will live by them. I am the Lord." So we can see here that this is the first opportunity of an ascending passage to escape from the sentence of death, and the first point in God's plan to bring everyone into the salvation plan. We can see through this covenantal law, we can see that God provides to the Israelites through Moses in Mount Sinai, we can see. So we have to see that in this situation, this ascending passage shows the hope for the humankind from the pit, and the laws provide the way for humankind to give them a chance again to gain life from death, we can see. So this is a chance which has been given in this situation, and we will continue more about this in next week's video and see about how there are various opportunities and the symbolism once again, and the structure, how it is built to show that symbolism in the Pyramid of Giza. We'll once again go through next week's video. As to this week's video, we've understood how ascending passages are symbolic once again and what they represent. We have further saw the first ascending passage where it takes place, which is during the period of Moses, where he is showing, or explaining to the Israelites the law that God provided, that God is providing to the Israelites to allow them to escape the sentence of death. So that is all for this week's video, and I'll see you next week. Bye.